Good afternoon. And again, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. Again, coming off our game on Saturday, first of all, I want to thank the fans for hanging in there during those delays or whatnot. No, that's not the most comfortable thing, but they hung in there and provided a really good atmosphere for our guys, and I know our guys really appreciate that. Took care of business and got to play a lot of guys, which was important for our team to develop, the other part of our roster that hasn't had much time. So critically important to not for guys just to play, but to develop and to get quality reps against a good opponent and improve and give ourselves more confidence in playing more guys in other critical situations. And they preserved the shutout and continued to move the ball and score points. And, we put that one to bed and quickly got on our opponent for the week. Tremendous opportunity against an excellent football team with a great coaching staff and lots of good players, and our players are fired up and looking forward to it. So, questions, please.
Mario, Francis Mario got named the conference lineman of the week. He graded out really well. Just how have you seen him develop over the course of maybe the last year or so, from the end of last year to now? And do you think he's kind of reaching that potential that he was so heralded at high school?
Yeah, our offensive line coach, Coach Mirabal, mentioned it today. Last year, Francis CC, as we call him, he was a freshman All-American, but he's nowhere. Well, last year he was nowhere near the player then that he is now. He has improved tremendously through an insane amount of time invested in strength and conditioning and film watching, the way he practices. He's taken more than a step. He's taken a couple of steps, and it really has elevated his play to become one of the best players in the country at any position. So, and on top of that, he's a great leader and a member of the Leadership Council. So, can't say enough awesome things about him, and he's just scratching the surface.
And to double check, you mentioned Jalen and Inez injuries on the radio this morning. I'm going to double check. Did you say they were going to be ready for Saturday's game?
Yes, sir.
Okay, double check.
Yes, sir.
And with just the offensive line in general having to move a lot of guys around because of injuries, just how do you feel the group has done throughout the first 3 games collectively?
They've done good and solid in some spurts. I know the big question was Saturday. We were generating a lot of yards on the ground early in the game, first half of the game. It's a little bit of everything as it relates to that, and I know we covered some of that on Saturday. But again, pleased with the way that they work, the way they get after it. We got to continue to ride them because they're such an important part of our team. They are culture-driven, hard-working, just real-deal guys that them, along with the defensive line, our trenches in general, they get after it and they drive our football team. So I think they've, to answer it a long way, I think they've done well, and I know there's a lot more in the tank, and they'll have the opportunities to prove that.
A guy like Jalen come back for you guys, missed the last 2 games, and Naz coming back too. How important is that against a team like UCF that likes to bring that pressure, likes to blitz a lot?
A lot of experience with those guys. Big bodies that move fast, move with power. They're certainly they're smart. They're unfazed. They provide a lot of, I would say, calm and confidence in the huddle, when they're on the football field. And they can handle a lot. They can make adjustments on the run. They communicate at a really high level. So coming to the sideline, before you see it on the tablet, they're already talking about it and explaining what's going on so that we can make an adjustment and, get better, and give ourselves a chance to have more successful plays. So those guys are invaluable.
The last couple of Mondays, but I think you used 78 guys against FAM, something like 75 or something against Ball State. You've had 10 receivers in week 1, 12 receivers in week 2, 11 receivers in week 3 on make catches. You had Emory come in, play really well. You had recently, the week before, play really well. Could you have drawn it up any better in terms of just getting guys reps, getting guys game reps, getting guys important game film? How valuable is just the totality of all of that?
Yeah, it's modern day college football with the expansion of seasons, with conference, play being so important, with sometimes red shirts coming into play. You really need to develop every part of your roster you possibly can. In a perfect world, you'd have 125 guys that are capable of helping you out in some way, shape, or form. I could give 24 examples of guys making plays that no one's really had a chance to hear from. A guy like Nick Kelly, who came on here as a walk-on, has been working his tail off for 2 years, has one of the best plays on special teams on kickoff cover. No one heard about it, but for us, ultra valuable. Guys like Elijah Lofton getting out there. He's already played a bunch, but now, he got in the end zone and got a taste of that, and he's been doing that his whole life. Now he did it at the college level. So his role continues to expand. It goes on and on and on. Armando Blunt, Justin Scott, Cole McConaughey, all those young defensive linemen getting in there and getting a whole bunch of reps, man. It's invaluable. And again, it was a big area of emphasis for our staff to develop our roster and get those young guys ready to play, and they did, and they responded. They responded much better this week than the week before.
Mario, as you start to climb the rankings and getting all this attention, just nationally, what are you telling the players in order to stay focused, knowing there's still a lot of football games left to play?
Well, I don't think much has to be said. They're very well aware of the same people that are giving them praise and showering them with all the good stuff, and rankings were the same ones that were, throwing dirt on them and over their grave when things were being built piece by piece. So we really pay very little attention to that. We acknowledge it. We're proud that we are being acknowledged, but it's so in the back of any thought as it relates to our progress, to our drive, to our determination. We just want to get to work. We just want to get better. We just want to go play football. We want to play the Miami Hurricanes standard, and we got a lot of work to do to get there.
Does the effort that USF shows on tape, does it stand out? It seems like they play with a chip on their shoulder.
Mm-hmm. It does. I think their speed, their physicality, the intensity they play with, the way they get to the football, their ability to tackle, get guys on the ground in space, the tempo they play with on the other side of the ball. There's a lot to them that has made them successful. Tremendous amount of respect for their head coach, their coaching staff, know them and have seen them work at other places and what they have been building at USF as well. They got a great football team, and it doesn't take but 3 or 4 clips watching them play the University of Alabama for everybody to realize how drastic, how big of a step, how much of how good of a team that really is. So the tape doesn't lie, and our guys have a chance to see it, so we're excited for a great challenge.
Cam's on the brink of 15,000 yards with kind of all 4 of his years plus the 3 games here. He's like, there's not very many guys in college football history that have thrown for that many. Without even asking him, I'm certain that he does not care. I think when you look at great athletes as they approach milestones, they typically don't care. Why do you think great athletes don't care about numbers? Why are they different than others when they don't get wrapped up in themselves? How does somebody learn that skill?
We ironically talked about that today with the leadership council. It almost seems like the great ones, they're just restless. They're almost like grouchy. They're never comfortable. They're uncomfortable in the right kind of way, and they make people uncomfortable in the right kind of way to keep everybody on edge. And the guy's restless. If it doesn't have much to do with us winning and getting better, I don't think he has any interest in it, quite frankly. And it's the right mentality. It's the right mentality. He's got this window to play college football, and he came to Miami for a lot of reasons, and one of them is winning, and proving also that he can help a program be a winner, So the guy is he's laser focused, and when he's at, well, we're seeing what it is when he is at. So.
What can you say for the tight end group and the impact they've made year over year? You mentioned Cam Ward, he's obviously made an impact too, but just the tight end group coming together and producing this year.
I think Coach Woodle has done a great job with those guys, and I think that tight end group has done a great job just buying into a couple things. Number one, the weight room, because they're much bigger than they've been, into conditioning and speed work because they're more explosive. And they were patient last year. That was tough, right? At Miami, we're so used to tight end production being at a high level. They were patient. They bought in, and they've seen they've reaped the rewards and the benefits of it early this season. I think it's a dynamic group. I do. I do. They're funny as all get out. I mean, they are as different of personalities as you can find. They come in all ages, shapes, sizes, colors, ethnicities. I mean, these guys are all. I mean, they're like almost a reflection of our city, you know. And they love to play football. I mean, they love to play football. They're all about it. So that's another group that, in our opinion, is just scratching the surface, and we're going to demand a lot of them because they're capable of it.
This is the third team in state that you've seen already, and obviously there's still one more to go that you see every year. But do you think it's important to play, especially in Florida where college football means so much? Do you think it's important to play multiple games against other in-state teams?
I mean, we like it, you know, we really do. Now, we treat everybody independently, and, you know, we certainly know when we focus on somebody, regardless of where they're our opponent, we, you know, we almost eliminate any narrative, subplots or whatnot. It's that opponent. It's the most important game that we have, but obviously the amount of energy that it brings out, and the alumni and the fan bases, you could tell that obviously there's a lot of passion behind it. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff, and we're just focused on getting better.
Mario, what has been the most impressive thing about this 3-0 start that you've seen from your players? Is it because with these huge leads that you guys have, and they're still fighting through till the clock strikes 0?
Well, probably the best thing that I'm fortunate enough to be here and like about this team, these guys really, they love football. They love football. You could throw a lot at them. You could confront them with work. You could confront them with constructive criticism and feedback, and this is the way we're going to do it. This is what we have to do. And they just take it, and they take complete ownership. And they have demonstrated that they have great leadership qualities, and they have demonstrated that by leading this football team. You know, I think all the credit needs to go to the players.
Mario, it seems like, I don't have the number in front of me how often you guys rush 4 versus, you know, bringing extra men to blitz, but it seems like you guys are able to really, you know, get pressure with just the, you know, 4 down linemen. How much does that free you guys up to, you know, in coverage and just create more possibilities for the defense that you are able to get pressure with just the defensive line?
Well, I think obviously it's helpful when you could do that, because coverage is, you know, you have one extra, right? But I also think that because we're so versatile and so multiple on defense, that, you know, as an offensive line, you want to settle in and be able to point things out, call things out, give a direction to protection and whatnot. And I think when Coach Guidry does what he does, it keeps people on edge. It keeps people guessing. You disguise coverages. You disguise, you know, which way you're rotating that secondary. It makes it difficult, you know. So besides the speed and the power of some of our guys up front, when you keep people guessing and maybe a little bit not as confident in some of the, you know, things they're doing, it comes together nicely. And so far we've had success. And then watching film, we saw yesterday, there's so many things we can improve on. You know, we could be an unbelievable front, and I know Coach Taylor, you know, Coach Salavea, all these guys are working their tails off to make sure that we take that next step.
And being a former offensive lineman yourself, I mean, over the year and a half of working with Coach Guidry, just how much have you seen, like, him bring different blitzes, different, you know, packages, stuff like that? And you said, okay, that's interesting. That'll mess some people up. You know, that'll get people all, you know, mixed up and stuff.
Yeah, well, this staff has a lot of experience, so I think you would really like and appreciate some of the off-season work when we clinic each other, where we go on the road and spend time networking with some NFL teams and start drawing up, hey, this is what really hurts us. Let me show you what hurts you, and then just exchange information, assessments. From a self-scouting standpoint, we self-scout each other like opponents so that we can point out the things the tells, right? It seems like everything, every play, every format has a tell, right? And if you could find those tells, you could help yourself or hurt yourself. So Coach Guidry, he really gets you ready. Like, our offensive line has seen so much that come game time, most of the time, we've seen some form or fashion of it. So it's been really helpful, and it's really difficult to block.
Kind of off topic, do you have a philosophy on kickoffs? Like, if you had your way, would you take a touchback every single time, or is there a time and place where you want Andy to try to place at the 5 and see if you can pin someone deeper? Is it just safer?
The perfect kick is, outside the hashes at the one deep, something like that. So you could cover because you really, you've cut the field more than in half, right? You're playing on a third of the field. That's really hard to do, So instead of taking a chance, he's always doing everything possible to kick it out of there. Now there was, the surface was slippery on Saturday. We had a couple slips,
Wasn't related to anything that went on.
No, it's a good question because, for example, Darius Hayes. Right, man, he's been playing lights out on kickoff. Bobby Washington been playing lights out on kickoff. Cam Pruitt, all these highly touted freshmen. When Miami was always good, you had Michael Barrow, right, Darren Smith, Jesse Armstead, Darrell Williams, all these guys just running down there and splattering people, right? Well, over time, these guys finally started understanding that. Playing well on special teams, angles, right, leveraging the football, getting guys on the ground, tackling, blocking, that's going to lead to better play on offense and defense. So those guys have really bought in, and they're doing a great job. Dylan Day, what a spectacular game he had. So a lot of freshmen are contributing on special teams, and it's not to preserve anybody. We really are playing our best guys on special teams everywhere we can because, we want that. We want the DNA of our team to show in the way we play special teams.
Now that you had a chance to watch the film, what did you see with the Wesley play when he hit the quarterback? And what is your message to the guys about balancing being smart and being aggressive?
I think he was smart. I think I didn't think he hit him high. I know it was one of those bang bang quick plays, and I don't know if they had a chance to review it thoroughly. I thought he took a great angle, a great pad level, and they feel that the crown of his helmet was a little bit high, so that's what came up with it. We don't, what's the right word so I don't get myself in trouble? Sorry, I'll work on it. But we don't want to in any way, shape, or form minimize the aggressiveness of our team. But we stress discipline. We don't play dirty. That's something we wouldn't do it with my own son, But we want to be physical and. I think I wouldn't change anything about Wesley's style. That guy plays football the way it's supposed to be played, and he's another one that is doing this.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
What up, guys? Pick questions for offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson.
Should I ask Mario a version of this question? Like when you look at great athletes in whatever walk of life, they are the ones that do not care about their numbers.
Yeah.
Cam is on the brink of 15,000 yards in his career, and we haven't had a chance to ask him yet, but I'm certain he's going to say he does not care. What is it about the great ones that makes them not care about the individual stuff?
I think it bleeds over into what we talked about last week, and like when bad things happen, you just keep playing ball. If you have that mentality that's tough like that, I think you block everything out. Like I'd be surprised if he even knew, to be quite honest with you. I was just in my office talking to him about certain things offensively, and he's got blinders on, and he thinks about the next play, thinks about the next game when that one's over with. So, I think those guys that are resilient, tend to not care about those things, and that's a good thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, Edwin Williams obviously comes in relief of Cam, plays most of 2 quarters, and looked phenomenal. How have you seen him grow from last year, obviously, as the injury, but when he played last year, he looked like a much more polished quarterback, it felt like, on Saturday. So how have you seen him grow over the course of the last year?
I think Emory's made tremendous strides. You think about what he went through last year with the injury, and, we didn't know when he was coming back. He worked his tail off and got back for spring. I think he would even tell you this, that, being around Cam has probably been the most beneficial. Watching him go about how he does, watching, sitting and talking about how to read specific plays, especially like verticals and stuff that there's like some gray area in the play. Just seeing space in a different way, I think has probably been the most beneficial to him.
The bill of that, just the camaraderie between the quarterbacks. Cam talked Saturday about after every drive, they're all going over film together. They're motivating each other one way or the other. Even though Cam wants to be in the fourth quarter, he's trying to talk to either Emory or Reese when they're in the game the last 2 weeks. Just the camaraderie, how much does that help the room with everybody trying to push each other even when they know that Cam is the guy?
Well, I think it's vital. If you don't have that, then, from the first practice, from the first meeting, it is stated very clearly that you support whoever's in the game, And so, yeah, we're competitive. Everybody competes, right, to a point. And then when the starter is named, then that's the guy and we support him. And whoever's in the game, it's easy with those guys because they like each other. It's very organic with those guys. Their banter and interaction on a daily basis is comical at most of the time, but you can tell those guys really respect and like each other. So I like to see, that. If you watch the game and at the end, whenever people were making plays, one of the things that sticks out to me is like you look on the video and our starters are on the sideline and they're the ones cheering the hardest, for those guys, which I think is key.
With UCF, just want to get your opinion on their defense, specifically that front seven. They like to bring a lot of heat on offensive passing downs.
We don't play UCF.
To USF. I'm sorry.
I think they're an extremely talented bunch, to be honest with you. I think they, from their linebackers to their back end, they trigger, harder than anybody we've played this year. They really get after it. They have a lot of turnovers in very advantageous times because they put their hat on the ball, And so ball security is utmost importance every week, but you see it this week a little bit more because they knock the ball out a lot. They just do. And so, and they fly around. Blocking those guys on the perimeter, we gotta strap it on and get ready because they will trigger. And they're tough to handle up front. They rush the passer, they hit the quarterback a lot, they get a lot of negative plays, they're very disruptive. It's going to be a challenge for sure.
How much does it help? Mario said that Inez and Jalen should be back this week to be able to have basically your line back. And how would you evaluate how the line has done through the first 3 games?
I thought they've done excellent. That's part of the competitive depth that everybody talks about wanting and not always having. But our O-line room is extremely talented. And so those guys step in and you really don't even notice it because they just do their job. And so a lot of our rooms are like that. Look at the running back room, for instance. Good gracious. We got guys getting carries that at the end that look really, really, really good. And so the motivation factor in those rooms is high, which is what it should be. But the O-line, in my opinion, have been, you should see the pockets that Cam's throwing from. It's unbelievable. And, go ahead.
I keep doing that. Speaking of talented offensive linemen, Francis Noah was named the Conference Lineman of the Week, and I think he's the highest rated offensive lineman on PFF in the ACC, if you take that for what it's worth. How have you seen him kind of grow from maybe
Who?
Francis Noah?
Oh, I didn't hear you. Oh.
Sorry. Just how have you seen him grow over the course of the last, 8-9 months? I know he didn't practice in spring, but how has he gotten better to live up to his potential?
Honestly, he's been pretty steady since I've been here. He's just one of those guys that the game's pretty slow for him. And again, he's no different than what I talked about Emory. He came back from injury and really hadn't missed a beat. He's as steady as it is on the edge, and we're excited about the way he goes about his business.
Then Chris Johnson, he got that, he had a couple of big, good plays so far this year, but he had that touchdown last Saturday, gets in space. Just how dangerous of a weapon is he with that speed of his?
I mean, speed's where it's at, right? And he has a lot of it. So we're just trying to find ways to get him involved. I mean, the one thing about him that's really neat is that he's a running. I mean, he can do everything that we do at running back. And so you put him in there and you just call plays. You don't. I mean, he isn't a guy that we're like trying to do certain things with. I mean, obviously he has a different skill set, but I mean, literally every play on the script is things that he can execute. And he's just in a situation like some of these guys that we just talked about. Is like we have guys that are starting and playing that are older, and right now they're playing at a high level. And so, finding ways to get those guys involved is crucial, and finding times in the game, and not any time, just whenever, right, is vital.
Shannon, when you put up 62 on the scoreboard, you put up a school record for 750 yards or whatever it was, I'm sure it's not hard for you to still go to the film and say these are the corrections. But
Yeah.
What's it like when kids are kids and they see huge numbers? How is this group as far as saying, yeah, there's still a lot of things, like every week, we can still do better, even with the numbers being what they are?
Well, I mean, it's fairly easy to see where you could do better. I mean, I know obviously it was a lot of yards, and like Cam, I'll just point him out specifically. I mean, he'd be the first to tell you right now that he left some meat on the bone. He did. I mean, there was about 3 or 4 plays out there that he could have done better on, right? And every position is like that. You're never going to play a squeaky clean, perfect game. But ultimately, there's always room for improvement. And to answer the first part of your question is that, you better treat this week to week. I mean, if you don't, it's a very humbling game. And if you're around enough and you think that you got things figured out, then just play one more week and see, right? And so ultimately what happens last week has nothing to do with what's going to happen Saturday. If we don't prepare the right way, then we're not going to go out there and be successful. And so we better treat Monday like Monday and Tuesday like Tuesday, regardless of the result of the last week. And, I don't even really talk about the game that we just played. I congratulate them, I move on, and we talk about the next opponent, because ultimately we're trying to be 1-0 every week. And what happened the last week, and if you're successful, what happened the last week can only hurt you, to be quite honest.
What did you like about what Jacoby did on Saturday?
I thought he played really fast. I talked to those receivers all week about just being hard to tackle. Play fast, which playing fast really has nothing to do with like your actual speed. There's people that can play fast that run 4.75, right? It's been proven over time. Like straining your body, getting vertical right now, being hard to tackle is playing fast. And I thought he played extremely fast when the ball hit his hand. So when the ball hit his hand, he got vertical. And even the play stepped out of bounds, he was like shot out of a cannon. And so I thought he played really, really fast. And he is fast, so those two combined together are good. But we don't always play fast. We gotta, those details are very minute about, especially at receiver and skill guys. The element of just getting straight vertical fast is like something that it baffles me how you miss that.
When you're recruiting at a high level, it creates depth. Depth creates competition. What is a game like the one A.J. Allen does for a guy like that on the depth chart?
I think it should permeate the whole group, meaning that I think he's a great example of a guy that, if things aren't working out for you, there's 2 ways you can go, right? You can be victim mentality is easy in today's world because everybody has it. My daughters are a prime example. I get on the one, and she was like, well, Baker did this. Well, I ain't talking about Baker. I'm talking about you, right? And so trying to scratch out that victim mentality with this generation is an everyday job, right? So you take a kid like him. Like, it's easy to sit there and say, get down, have a bad attitude, you're not getting what you need to get, supposedly. But you better be ready when your number's called. and he stayed positive. He works his tail off in practice, and then when his number was called, I mean, he played extremely well. And so, to me, there's a lot of guys in that offensive room, and defensive too, but I coach offense obviously, but there's a lot of guys in that room that can learn a lot of lessons from what he has been through lately and what he did Saturday. I'm very proud of the performance he had and his attitude that he's shown and his effort and all the rest.
Does he have a trait that's different from the other backs?
Well, I mean, I think everybody's obviously got some different traits, right? I do think AJ is very hard to tackle. He has a low center of gravity. Like, you could tell that at the end. Like, there were some people that were in open spaces and he goes forward, you know? And that was the same way last year. I mean, he's hard to tackle. And so, and when he gets in the open field, he can go. He can turn it on. And so.
All of that said, how do you manage the depth chart with those guys in terms of who's in the game and who's going to get reps? And where are you at with Damian in all this? Is he getting to the point where he's ready for a bigger load?
No, he is. I mean, it just so happened that game, I mean, position coaches are like, and we talk about it leading up to games. I mean, there's going to be a pattern, right? And so we're trying to get people involved that have proven that they need to be involved. And so ultimately when games like that happen, when it's back around to like Damian's turn, if the game is out of hand, then we're going to go with younger guys and give them an opportunity. So it's nothing to do with what he did or didn't do. It just, that was the way the flow of the game went, you know. And obviously you look at running backs and we want to we have a very talented room, right? So we're trying to get people involved, but we don't want to disrupt one person's ability to get going. You know what I mean? So there has to be a flow to it. And Matt does a great job of having his finger on that flow. I'll be honest with you, through the course of the game, I just trust him about the rotation of running backs. You know, there's certain plays on the script or certain situations where I might ask for somebody, but ultimately the starting of drives and the flow of it, man, he has a great handle on that, and so I just let him do what he does.
Do you like where you're at right now in terms of the balance between, I'm certain there's a lot of things in the book that you haven't shown yet, but you probably have a much better sense now than what you're really good at than what you probably did 3 weeks ago too. What is that balance like? You're trying to figure out that.
You talking about scheme-wise or just the balance of what? Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you go through camp and you have a pretty good feeling, right? But, you know, until you do it in games and you see what people are very comfortable doing, you know, and I have a really good feeling. I mean, obviously with Cam, it's a little bit unique because, I mean, he can play the game and he sees things at a different rate. And so, but I mean, overall, yeah, after 3 games, we have a good feel for what we're good at, but we're really not even close to scratching the surface with what we're going to do in certain aspects. And a lot of that, like, you know, you can compartmentalize offense into pass game, run game, screens, and stuff like that. There's a couple of them that we hadn't even used, like 5 or 10% of what is going to be used. So,
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys.
We'll go straight into questions for defensive coordinator Lance Guidry.
Hello.
How you doing, Coach?
Doing good.
Hey, when you see watch tape on that 6'3", 230-pound Byron Brown, you see what he did as a freshman, one game against Tulsa, went like 24 for 26, and 2 and 1 on the ground. Last year, 3,300 yards in the air and another 800 on the ground, 27 touchdowns and 11 in the ground. This year, 84 throws, no picks. Can you believe he's still a teenager?
No. Can't believe it. So, big task, of course, So we'll see. That's why we play the game.
Dual threat guy like that, just how much pressure does it add on to your defense? If passing not working, you're breaking down and taking up the field.
Anytime a guy can run the football, it's a little scary, When a quarterback is just a passer and he doesn't run, you can play. I feel like you got 2 more hats than they got. But when a quarterback can run, you have to get that last hat involved in the run game, and then you're stretched a little bit thin in the passing game, in pass defense. So running quarterbacks always give problems, guys that can extend plays with their legs, and then he breaks a lot of tackles. You can see it in the Alabama game, and Alabama got big people, and he runs through some of their tackles. So it's going to be a tall task, but it all starts with stopping the run. You got to stop the run first, try to make them one-dimensional, try to make them throw the ball, and then go from there.
How much does your defense, you guys throughout camp, having to go up against Cam, how much do you think that helps you guys in terms of the preparation for that?
Cam's different. Cam's a throw the ball type guy first. He extends plays to throw the football, not necessarily run. It's kind of Cam's last thing is to run the football, pull it down. I think this guy, if he goes through his read progression and it's not there, he's going to take off and run because he feels good about his running ability, and he's more like a running back, so say. So they are different, but definitely Cam being able to be mobile in the pocket has helped us throughout camp.
How about their scheme and the way it'll stress you guys too? Because it seems like they go horizontal, they're wide.
Yeah, they're real wide like Baylor, like Coach used to be at Baylor. They use every blade of grass. They're split really, really wide. They try to stretch you out as much as they can so they can run the football and they throw the vertical passing game. They'll go extremely fast, so you can't have calls that have a lot of words to them. So you've got to cut down on your words, and maybe one word says everything on defense. So we're working on that this week. It's hard to simulate. It's kind of like option football. You can have a plan and you try to make your scout team do it, but you can't get in rhythm and get the flow of it until you actually get in the game.
No disrespect to the last couple of weeks, but is it a little bit refreshing for you and your guys to have a little bit more of a challenge this week and know that you're going to be in a real man's football game?
Every week is a challenge. We play against ourselves. So it shouldn't matter who you're playing against, what the level they are, if they're FCS, if they're Group of 5, if they're Power 5, if they're SEC. You are trying to perfect what you're doing on defense. You don't want to miss tackles. You don't want to give up big plays. So the opponent doesn't matter. We've never looked at it like that. It's just each week presents a different problem. So I've been that small dog before. So it's not about that. It's about perfecting and getting better each week, and that's what we're aiming to do.
I don't know exactly the breakdown of how often you guys have rushed, 4 versus, bringing more guys in blitzes, but it seems like your front 4 have been able to get pressure really well and get to the quarterback on their own. How much does that help you, free guys up for coverage and just make kind of things work a little more easy for you guys?
It's always easier when you can rush 4 and not have to bring the 5th and 6th guy. You're able to play a little bit more zone that way, which we did a lot last week. We played a lot of zone. But sometimes in stopping the run game, 4 guys isn't enough, and you get to where you got to bring 5 with an extra hat. But our defensive line's doing a great job right now. If you could only rush 4 and stop the run and control the pass, I just rush 4. But sometimes it's not designed that way, especially with a running quarterback. You got to get a lot of hats involved getting to the football. But our D-line's done a great job, and they've really helped the back end because, we don't have a lot of snap counts on that back end, but we're getting more and more experience, and the D-line is really helping the back end get that experience.
First shutout as defensive coordinator at Miami, just what have you been most impressed with this defense so far this year, and what areas do you want to see them continue to improve in?
I think our communication is really good. We haven't busted a lot of things, and we've faced 3 different types of offense, of course. The most impressive thing, I think, is when you bring in the guys at the end. your younger guys, and there's not that much of a drop off. And, you see a lot of guys being hungry, trying to get to the football, and I think that's the biggest difference between this year's defense and last, is at the end of the games who you're putting in and does the level drop off. Because last year we had a couple times we could have had a shutout. We put in some younger guys at the end and we gave up some points. So this year we didn't, of course. The last week we gave up some field goals. But I'm really impressed with this group. We just need to continue to get better each week.
Anything else for Coach Guidry?
How much, speaking about Byron Brown, how much do you work with the linebackers about making sure to not get caught at bad angles or anything as he starts to take off and run with it?
Our first day was today. So usually on today we work special situations, maybe some goal line stuff, some red zone stuff. We don't get really deep into schematics on today. Tomorrow will be more of that, and they'll watch the film and they know they can't overrun them, and they're going to have to bring their hat and hands and get a lot of people to the football because he's a big guy and he also runs well. So we'll have our hands full. I mean, he did well against Alabama, and I'm sure they expect him to do well against the Canes.
I think before the season, you and I think Mario both talked about how you feel like you have what you need in the secondary, and how people were kind of unsure about it, and you're like, oh, keep talking about it because they're going to be good. So far, they've been very good. Just what have you liked from what you've seen from the DBs?
I think the most impressive thing is probably, we're without Brown, and we've had a freshman step up to give us kind of, some being solid at the corner, and we're playing different guys, and I think each week we'll get better. Throughout the season, we'll play against some really good wide receivers and some good quarterbacks, and so we need to continue to grow and continue to get better. We're not there yet by any means, but each year is a different year, and sometimes you go into a season, you think that you've got problems in a certain area, you might not be as good, and they might end up being a bright spot. So we'll coach them each week and try and put them in the best spot they can be in, and just keep trying to get better.
And speaking of OJ, just you kind of take me through that recruitment, because obviously he wasn't the 5-star, everyone knows who he is, everyone's on him kind of guy. He was a little under the radar, played a lot of receiver in high school and stuff. I guess when you were evaluating him as a player in high school, what did you see that made him stand out as okay, this is a guy who can make an impact for us?
We saw on film that he was a good player. We didn't know how big he was. I hadn't seen him in person with my eye. He came to a camp over the summer before his senior year, and he locked up everybody, and we kept bringing guys over across. He was going up against different wideouts, and we'd kind of say, hey, go against that one, and he wouldn't bat an eye. It didn't matter if it was a deep ball post, go route, and I was impressed with the way he looked back for the ball, and he didn't panic. And, of course, we got him to commit, and he don't even come through spring football with us. And he gets here this summer, and you really can't do anything too much with him in the summer. You're just going over scheme, and then you go into fall camp, and he's going against our wide receivers, and it's like he's been here for a couple years. So that was really, really impressive. And I told Coach Jackson, I said, that's going to be the one right there. He's got a chance. And sure enough, he worked his way into a starting role. So you never know. I mean, sometimes you project a guy out of high school to be a great when he gets here and he ain't what you thought. And sometimes it's a guy just like OJ, because you can't measure what's underneath inside that chest. And he's got that, he's got this. So really good football player.
Seems like USF is going to challenge any defense to tackle in space.
Sure.
How do you feel like that's gone for you guys through the first 3 games?
I think we've tackled well in space. Florida was a good test, of course. Each week's a good test, but we've had to tackle in space, and you really don't know coming out of fall camp how you're going to tackle, because I thought the first scrimmage we tackled very poor, probably the worst since I've been here. And then the second scrimmage we actually tackled well. So going into Florida, I was a little worried because we'd only tackled twice, and we tackled well. So each week seems like we're getting better and better, but we'll be challenged this week. We'll have to make some good tackles, and their wide receivers are strong with the football. So they'll break tackles. They're good after the catch. So we'll have a tall task, but, we got to just run to the football and get a lot of hats.
I want to ask you, too, about 2 of your young guys that flashed a little bit against Ball State, Malik Bryan and Popo.
Yeah.
How do you feel like they played?
Malik's been getting better and better since I've been here. And I think he's found his home at the Jack, and he played really fast. He still has some down days and up days, but I think he's trending in the right direction. And Popo, I've been seeing it through this camp. He's probably the most, I think, probably as the young guys, probably the one that's probably gotten the most, out of the camp. And he's gotten better, and he's made a bunch of strides. And Popo is going to be a really good football player. So those two guys, I think, are trending in the right direction. They'll play meaningful snaps this year.
Dylan Day's flashing on special teams.
Yeah.
How's he doing on defense?
You know, it's always good when you can play young guys on special teams because you can only get them so many reps in a game because you got some of the older guys that are playing, so they don't get as many snaps at practice. So special teams is the way you evaluate young guys. If you have a bunch of young DBs or young linebackers that aren't starting on special teams, you probably have missed on the evaluation. When those guys are making plays on special teams, that means that guy's going to be a player. So that's how I always kind of looked at it, you know. So he's trending in the right direction. He made a big hit. He can run. Zaquan's on special teams. Those guys are doing really well. A bunch of our young guys are doing well. Hayes had a big hit the week before. So I like when the young guys are on special teams. That means you've got the right guys in the program.
And Dylan, is he a safety long-term?
Yeah, he's a free safety. He's playing more of the free. I think that's what he is. He's kind of a cover free safety guy that's got range and can tackle. So he works on the scout team and he works with us on the defensive side. He works behind Markeith. So you got Mish, Markeith, and him. And then at the boundary safety, you've got, of course, Harris and Zaquan. So he's kind of the fifth guy that we rotate. And doesn't get a ton of snaps, but he's getting a lot of mental snaps.
Akeem Mesidor was very eager to get back on the field. What is his attitude right now, and how are you actually using him on the field?
He's playing a lot inside, played a little bit outside. He'll probably play a little bit more outside this week. You know, he's been close to a lot of sacks. He hadn't been there, even on that interception. He was trying to get back to get the interception, but it fell to Elijah. He's been close on a lot of plays. I still don't think he's in game shape yet. Through fall camp, he probably, I don't know how many snaps he took, but he didn't take a lot of snaps each day. But now we're getting through a couple games. He's starting to get in game shape. I think his best football will probably be midway. I think we'll see the old Mesidor. But he's getting really, really close to where he was.
The intensity that Elijah Alston brings, did he show that to you at Marshall too?
Oh, yeah.
Was he that type of guy?
Yeah. When I was there, when he was a freshman, redshirt freshman, he had beaten out an older guy that year, which we thought was a really good football player, and he beat him out. Elijah got hurt in the bowl game against UL Lafayette, had a high ankle sprain. The next year he came back, he was a little heavy, and he was still kind of hurt from that ankle. So his sophomore year, my last year there, he didn't play as well. And then my first year here at Miami, last year with him at Marshall, he played really, really good. He kind of went back to how he was, and then now he's even better. So I always knew he could run. Had a great gift of bending off the edge, and he can do so many things. He can drop in coverage like a linebacker. He's like a true jack. He can be an outside linebacker or rush the passer. I mean, he's spying quarterbacks, going to get them, and he's picking off balls. So very talented kid, you know. But, yeah, he's what I thought he was going to be.
That versatility that you're touching on, that's different year over year, right, compared to what you had last year? Did you have a guy like that?
Najee was kind of like that. He was kind of more in that mode, you know, but he was younger, of course. But that's kind of more that jack position. You know, when you got Bain, Mesidor, and Tyler in there, they're more like true ends, so you don't drop them as much in coverage. But Elijah, you can do a lot of things with. You know, it's really whatever personnel you got, what you can do.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.